Let's have a look at the setup of workflow, and specifically the accounts payable workflow for vendor invoice line approval. So when we go into the accounts payable workflow, what we can do there is have a look, and there's two amounts, and so let's have a look at the two amounts so that we're clear in terms of how they work. So if I double click and go into the setup, let's go to the basic settings. Now I could have a condition or assignment, for example. So let's go and have a look at a condition. If I go and add a condition to say, when does this approval run, I might want to have a look at the vendor invoice lines, and you'll see that there's a vendor invoice lines amount field, and there is a vendor invoice lines net amount. So which one should we actually use? So let's have a look at these. So let's go and put in an invoice. So I'll go into my pending invoices. We'll put an invoice in for this vendor. I can say invoice number. Let's just put it in for a category. In this particular case, I'm going to say category is office cleaning, for example. I'll put a quantity of 1 and a unit price of 130. So when we look at the details, there's our line net amount, which is 130, and I can see that when I go to the details, so line net amount as well. Now let's have a look at this in the actual table. So if I open up the development environment, the table is vendor invoice line info. So let's go and find this line. Now the line, if we come across and find the details, so I put it in for US 102, so it should be the last one in the list. Okay, so if we have a look here, then I put it in for office cleaning, for example. So if we have a look at the fields, we'll see that there's a field called line amount. And so if we have a look at the table, just position this so that we can come back to it. We have a field called line amount, and if I look at the label, this is called net amount. So if we have a look at the workflow setup, then if we have a look at the workflow, this is called net amount. So the actual net amount that you'll see on the invoice is called net amount. So what is this other amount? So if we have a look at the table, there is a field called PSA retainage amount, and that has a label of amount. And so if we have a look at the workflow, then the workflow, you'll see this show up as amount. So this is the amount field, which is actually the PSA retainage amount. And so if we have a look in the table for that field, so let's go across, we'll see PSA. So in this particular case, come back. Okay, so we'll see the fields here for the PSA. So retainage amount, this is actually 0 because we're not using a project on this line. So you want to be careful when you're setting up the line level workflow. The field that you want is actually the net amount. So this is the net amount that you want. That amount is for the PSA retainage amount, so something you need to be aware of as well. When you're looking at the lines, in this particular case the net amount is 130, and so if we have a look at the distribution amounts, you'll see that there's actually tax on this. So there's actually some tax lines on this one. So the amount that you're looking at is actually just the net amount, which doesn't include potentially the tax amounts if there is tax on that document. So something to be aware of when you're setting up the line level workflows. In this particular case, vendor invoice line level workflows, what's the amount that you want to trigger on?